All right, we are back at it again. Took a bit of a longer break there, but plan to work for, I'm hoping at least a solid 4 hours, maybe 5. We'll see. If I start to get too tired, I'm going to cut it. I don't want to risk sleeping or making myself too tired and sleeping through tomorrow and missing the submission period, because if this goes anything like any of the other jams, I'm going to be pushing it right up to the end of the submission deadline. All right, didn't do anything while I was off stream, so we're picking up right back where I was. I need to add item selection. So we are going to go into player input, and I already added, let me double check what I called them. Okay, previous item and next item. So I need to figure out how to represent that. I was also debating, I may drop the hotkeys and potentially use Q and E as surrogates for the scroll wheel. I don't know how common it is nowadays, but I know some mice don't even have scroll wheels. So I do want at least one key option, and I think Q and E might be a good option. But anyways, so how am I going to do this? It's possible, but I don't think likely, that somebody could try to scroll through 2 different items in a single frame, or 2 or more. So I think what I actually want to do is use an integer as like an offset for how many times it's been pressed, either forwards or backwards, and like jumping, clear the offset whenever it's read. I mean, I guess you could also use a modulus too and just infinitely increment it. That might cause some issues though if we do what I talked about earlier with marking or not skipping items that you can't afford, because then if it suddenly becomes selectable, using a modulus with a constantly increasing number might suddenly snap it to a different item when it becomes available. So I think I like the idea of clearing it. So we're going to do item or selected item offset. It's always the fun thing about jams, is that you get to try a lot of different ways to implement things, not necessarily because you want to, but because in the heat of the moment you just kind of have to pick the first thing that comes into your head and focus on what matters more. So we're going to say elif event.is action pressed next item. It is really hard to type when you can't see your keyboard because the microphone's in the way. Really running this game jam with a handicap. I definitely could tell last night whenever I was working off stream, I code so much faster when I'm not constantly worried about, is everything working in OBS? Is the stream going okay? Can I still see the chat? Is the window getting captured right? Definitely adds a whole new level of difficulty to these. Let's see, what do I want to call this method? Maybe, let's say increment selected item. And we'll go by 1. And we'll put -1 in there. Actually, I think we'll just do change selected item. And we'll do this, and we'll have it as forwards as the parameter name. Okay. There we go. We'll do selected item offset plus equals 1, else minus equals 1. And then we'll do get I forget the name of the principle, is not coming to my mind right now, but you usually shouldn't modify things when you read them. But in cases like this, I think it makes sense because there's really never a situation where I'd want to read it without clearing it. But I will say I don't love using is here, and in hindsight I wouldn't have coded it like that. I would have called it clear or pop or something like that. Maybe not pop because the context is a little different there, but just to signify that it's not just a simple read. I guess this is really more of an offset amount than anything, but anyways, whatever. Okay, so we have clear selected item offset. So now let me check. Do I already have it in store? I think I do. I have, yeah, change selected item. So we're going to use absolute as false. We'll probably never realistically use that absolute option. And then in player, I don't know, somewhere in here, probably in just regular process, we'll do var selected item offset int equals player input. I did debate just directly feeding player input into things like the store, but I kind of decided against it. There's definitely other paradigms you could use for this that I think would make more sense. But okay, there we go. So that should allow me to swap items, but the HUD currently does not have... Well, actually, maybe it does. I think, did I implement that? Okay, well, scrolling isn't doing anything, so that's not helpful. Okay. Let me go back into the player input class and see if I maybe did something wrong. Returning the offset. And we are, yeah, we are using plus or minus. Next item, previous item, let me double check the input mappings. Mouse wheel up, mouse wheel down. Yep, okay. Let me add a... Oh, something's getting logged somewhere. Where was I logging that? I really wish if you used a print statement, if you could click the line and it would take you to where you left it. And granted, using print statements for debugging like this really is not a good practice. But it is convenient. I think that's in the quick select. Yeah, that's what I thought in the quick select. I vaguely remember leaving that somewhere. Okay, so update selected card. All right, well, we're going to do this the easy way, and I'm going to go into the store itself, and I'm going to check if this is ever even getting called. Yes, okay, it is. Whoa. It got called a lot. What the heck? Oh. Huh. Okay, that's something I was mildly worried about. All right, let me run it again and just immediately exit. Yeah, it still got called a lot. What the heck? Oh, it's getting called with 0. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. If selected item offset does not equal 0, do that. Okay. All right, well, moving the scroll wheel, nothing happened. So that's not great. Okay, so let's go to player input and figure out what might be going on here. It might be that pressed doesn't work with the scroll wheel signal. I have a suspicion that might be what it is. No? Okay, it does. All right. And it does seem like it's only going one click at a time, which is good. So change selected items, select item offset. Yeah, that should have done something. Hmm. All right. We're just going to trace through and figure out what's going on here. Yeah, okay, it did that. So is this not returning a number? It returned zero. No, wait, it did periodically return 1. Yeah, so it did return 1 every time it clicked. Okay. So this is working. I thought it was. I gotta say, it didn't seem like I had done anything wrong there. So is this not getting called then? Let me put a breakpoint in here. We're gonna do this the right way. All right. And we're gonna skip. We're gonna step over. And here's the, oh yeah, continue. There we go. Okay, it came back again. Run it again. Okay, it did get caught. All right. So why? That's strange. It's like it's not selecting the right card. All right. Well, let's take a look in here again. So is this ever changing? Selected card index. Get selected card index. All right. Well, we're going to just print the card index and see what happens. -1 and then 0, 0, 0. Okay. It's only returning 0. Selected item index should be more than 0. So I think there's something wrong with this method here. All right, well, we traced it down. Why is this only ever returning 0? So we know that item size is 2. So this will not do anything. If the item index is less than 0, set it equal to 0. That's only going to be true the first time. New index equals selected item index. We are passing false to absolute. So new index is plus equal to the offset, which should have been 1. Oh, wait, is wrap I not inclusive? I feel, yes, it's exclusive. Aha, that's the problem. Betcha that's it. Let's try this again. Yeah, sure enough. I always make that mistake. I forget that some of those clamp and wrap methods, some of them are inclusive and some are exclusive. So that's a good thing to watch for. But now we've got that working. That's perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. Now oh, what the heck? Why did I just fall through that chair? What? Oh, what did I break? What did I do? I bet it was when I switched this back to a static body. There's something probably broken in here now. Oh, it's on the wrong layer. Yeah, that would do it. I forgot I changed that because I was playing with it as a rigid body. Okay. Oop, forgot the fruit. Yeah, I need more visual feedback that you don't have any fruit, because I've made that mistake several times now that I've tried to place things and didn't realize that I didn't have enough to do it. Yeah, so now I can place that one. Okay, Well, that's working so far. I don't believe that the store code for selecting which item is active technically works, though. I believe that if I go in here and change that to a different kind of chair, it won't work that way. So, in fact, actually, one thing I can do that's kind of funny, I'm going to come in here and I am going to make a new item. So we're going to duplicate this and we're going to call it a fruit item. And literally all this is going to do is I'm going to load the fruit. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to load as the placeholder, but for the prop scene, I'm going to load the fruit as the prop. And I don't know, we'll use, you could select all of Maine as a placeholder. I'm sure that wouldn't blow up horrifically. We'll make this cost 15. This is not going to stay this way. I'm just curious about something. So that does remind me, fruit really should be its own item though. So let me find fruit. Let me change that to fruit prop and rename that to fruit prop. Yeah, this mesh instance, I want to save that. Go to resources, meshes, and this is fruit. And then I want to save this material into the materials, fruit material or mango material. Okay. So now we're going to just make sure that we've doubly loaded that. And then we're going to load the fruit mesh that way. Okay. Yep. So that's the fruit prop. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a new scene. We'll just do a placeholder and we'll call this fruit placeholder. And we're going to add a mesh instance. I guess I could just make the top level thing a mesh instance. Out of habit, I usually like to keep my roots something like a margin container or a node, because it restricts what properties you can see. If I make the top level the mesh instance, you might be inclined to mess with these values when I really only intend for them to be modified by scripts that I have attached at the root. So that's why I do that. Okay, so if we go into, not resources, scenes, props, fruit, do fruit placeholder. Okay, so now if I come up here to fruit item, I can swap the placeholder for fruit placeholder, and I can swap that for the fruit prop. Okay, and I'm going to select some kind of default texture. I don't know, gradient texture 2D. I don't know. What am I gonna do here? We'll make it the Godot logo. Well, that's too big. All right, we're just gonna do a placeholder texture 2D. I remember these have some wonky issues with sizing though, so that might not work entirely correctly. And then we're gonna go back to player on store. We're gonna delete that fake item and then add the fruit item and see if that did what it's supposed to do. It did. Okay, perfect. Oh, actually, I think that's supposed to be 24 by 24, not 16 by 16. I need to set a minimum on that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, see, notice it doesn't change. I'm curious, what actually... Oh, it does actually spawn it, though. It's just the placeholder doesn't change. Sweet infinite money glitch. All right. Okay. Well, that's an interesting option. It kind of worked. All right. So you can select them, but it does not allow you to cycle through them. Um, I guess it does actually make them look different. Okay. So that's good news. That at least works. Before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and add another key binding. So for next item, I'm going to do E. And I'm going to add previous item Q. And let me just make sure for a second. Let me add a third item to the store and make sure that I've actually got the item or the scroll wheel in the right order. Yes, I do. Okay. And yep, okay, Q and E also works. So then I guess that actually means that the 1, 2, and 3 shouldn't be there. I should probably add like Q and E off to the sides. All right, well, I can do that. So in the quick select card, I'll just come over to here. I might actually reuse that as the money. I guess it depends what the economy is, because if one chair costs $1, then I could make like the most expensive chair cost like 5, so I could maybe scale back the economy. And that might make it so I don't need triple digit numbers. It depends. How is 50 gonna... Yeah, 50 actually looks okay. Yeah, I might do that, but I am gonna get rid of the number label. And this margin container, I'm gonna drop that the moment. We'll worry about styling later. And we're gonna come into here and we're gonna ditch number, because we're not gonna do that anymore. Okay, so then I also need to update that here in the quick select. Yeah, I don't need the card index anymore then. All right, cool. Let's see how that looks. Yep, okay. Wait, what? I swear it was just skipping. Okay, well, whatever. All right, well, that's looking good so far. Okay. So then, I need to figure out why the store... Well, I know why. It's because this thing never updates the held item. Yeah, so whenever you call change selected item, that never actually updates it. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna call that there at the end. Although I'm actually gonna call it right there before I emit a change. And I'm also gonna call it there. Actually, come to think of it, I really should be emitting this as well. Okay. Now, held item doesn't currently get rid of the placeholder. So it does get the selected item and instantiate it, but it doesn't get rid of the old placeholder. And really what I actually want it to do is disable rendering of one placeholder. So what I actually want is like an array of placeholders. I'm going to change that to placeholder container. And then placeholders will become the array of items. And we will do node 3D or not null, empty. Okay. So then I'm going to have a create placeholders method or function. I keep saying method. I'm so used to doing Java development. Placeholders. Now this does mean it won't detect changes on the resources. You can do that. Resources in Godot will emit a signal on a property change. And you can use that to detect if they've changed and reload anything you need to reload. Generally, for my projects, I don't bother detecting that. I have an unwritten rule in my projects that once something has been initialized, it is not expected that you are going to change its resource on it. Not perfect, not ideal, but it is just the way I prefer to do things. If I was doing something like a library or a larger project like Upsilon, I do try to code that in just so that it doesn't bite me later. But it's worth noting that it is something you can do in Godot. So let's see. I am going to go through each placeholder. We're going to cut that and say for item in items. We're going to get the placeholder. Actually, that is not private. We're going to instantiate it. And then we are going to do placeholders dot push back. And we're going to do placeholder. And then the placeholder container is going to add it. So one thing I do want to do though is whenever it's created, I'm going to set visible to false. So we're going to put that up here. And I'm kind of mixing terminology. Some places in this code call it held items and others call it placeholders. Oh well. But what we're going to do is in here, we're going to go for item index in items.size and var visible, same thing as the other. Or well, I guess we'll just do selected, and we will do actually it's not really what I want. It's selected item index int equals get selected item index. Actually, does that? Oh, that just literally returns it. Okay. And just do that then. I forgot I was in the same class. Item index equals that. Then we'll do that. And then we'll do placeholders item index dot visible equals selected. Okay. Let's see if that works. Nope. Out of bounds index. Okay. Update held item. Where am I calling that? I'm calling that in ready after I do create placeholders. Is change selected item maybe triggering that? Ah, it is. Oh, well, obviously I should have called create placeholders before. You know what? I'm going to say initialize held items as items. There. We're going to call it that. Call it what it is. That makes more sense that that's before change selected item. And change selected item does update held item, so I don't even need to do that anymore. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's working now. All right, awesome. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right. I think I do want to reverse the scroll wheel. I don't know why, but my brain says if I scroll towards me or if I scroll down, I want it to go up. So I'm going to swap these mappings here. So mouse wheel up is going to be mouse wheel down. Then this one is going to be mouse wheel up. Let's see if that registers a little bit better for me. Yeah, that registers a lot better. Okay. So that's the core mechanics in, really. The only thing left, I would say, is, well, I guess there's kind of two things. Technically, it is going to be possible that you could soft lock yourself by doing something silly. Like if you manage to create a box around yourself. I'm honestly think I'm just going to ignore that as a problem and say that don't do that. Okay. I still just can't get over just how surreal it looks seeing all these chairs just floating in midair like this against the sky background. This is not, like, all of this was placeholder. It wasn't intentional, but I think this is exactly the aesthetic that this game needed to really sell just the absurdity of what you're doing. Okay. Well, I'm pretty happy with this so far. All I really need to do now then is implement the different point values of fruits and the different chairs. So I know I want one that's physics simulated because that's going to be the basic chair. One that's some sort of like floating chair that maybe has like a rocket effect or something on it. Or maybe some sort of like gravity pad thing, just to indicate that it is supposed to be staying like that. I suppose if I wanted to be more flexible, I could have designed it so that chairs could indicate rotation constraints, like having the floating chair only be allowed to be right side up so that you couldn't rotate it upside down. But to be honest, I'm really not that worried about it. I don't think it's going to be a major issue. I do also need the button that will reset everything. The easiest way I can see to do that is to add either something that you need to stand on that triggers it. Because the thing is, my item placement system is not really hooked into anything else. Ooh, actually, there is something else I need. I need feedback to indicate. Let me start writing this down. Let me mark what all we've got here. So I need feedback to indicate. I'm going to go ahead and mark the store is done. But I'm going to put this under. What would I call this? Okay, so feedback that you can't afford an item. Okay. I'm going to wait until the end for that, because that is definitively the kind of thing that isn't strictly necessary. Okay. I guess I don't, the store menu does kind of need to be done. I'm gonna put these, let's say item, thumbnails, borders, and text or cost text. Okay. I think for tutorials, I'm just going to probably have something maybe at the beginning where a fruit is just out of reach and put a chair maybe pre-spawned under it so that you have to jump on the chair to get to it. And that will be like the first fruit you get, and then you can buy other chairs. And I'll probably have that be like a static chair that doesn't move. Maybe like a special one. Okay. So I'm not really going to worry about the store right now. I think before I move on to the chairs, I'm going to move on to the different values of fruits. And we'll do that. The music handler, I'm not going to worry too much about. A scene handler, probably also not going to worry too much about that. And then game events, I'm going to say is already done. It's not technically, but the core structure is there. And then the reset system. So I'm not sure yet how you're going to reset. I said in the high level, fruits get more valuable as you go. Fruits sell instantly. Golden apple. Yeah, so I do need my bookend. I don't want to wait too long on that. I've made that mistake before on waiting to put in my game win condition way too late. So I need to do that. Different chairs have different abilities. Chairs are frozen in space. You can buy chairs at any time from the menu. Self-spawn chairs. Yep. Game ends when you collect topmost fruit. Oh, yeah, that's... You collect golden apple. There we go. Scoring base, yeah. So from the ground, scoring based on how fast. It's not really about carrying chairs. Okay. You know, I think I lied. Let's figure out the selling system because that's pretty important to making sure there's no soft lock. My gut reaction for the sale is that it needs to be either a zone that you stand in and gives you a prompt to sell it, or standing in the zone slowly begins to sell the chairs automatically. I honestly think the latter is going to be more complicated. I don't think I'm going to use either mouse button though for selling. That I think is just going to get too complicated. At least for this example. So I'm probably just going to bind like F to the sale option and just make it, if you're standing within the zone, it activates the sale area. So, or R. Actually, I kind of like, well, R would be easy to accidentally press. Actually, I don't know why I said you had to be on the ground to reset the chairs. That actually not a good reason now that I think about it. Because if you have to be on the ground to reset the chairs, why? I had said for gameplay reasons it was so that you couldn't... Oh, I remember. It's because if you can stand in the tree and you reset the chairs while you're in the tree, that would be the problem. Because then you can cheese it. Because I do want to have branches you can stand on. Yeah, that makes sense. Ugh. Okay, evidently I am getting tired already. Wow, does not bode well. Okay. So, first thing first, I am going to delete the fruit item here. And in the store, I'm going to get rid of that extra item. And okay, let's figure out how I want to do this. I think the store itself is going to track how much money has been spent. So we're just going to add a variable for that. So spent credits. Yeah. Okay, so then we will add a refund credits thing in here. And we'll make that refund purchases. Okay, so first and foremost, it'll do bank.add credits. So we'll do that. And then we'll set spent credits equal to 0. I also need to come into here, and whenever you buy an item, we'll do plus equals cost. Okay. So then I need to find every item that you purchased. And we'll say get nodes in group, and we're going to say the group is purchases. And we'll do for node in purchases. We'll do node.queueFree. Actually, we'll probably do even one more than that. We'll do node dot I thought there was a method or a function to remove itself from the tree. Changes the parent of this node to the new parent. The node needs to already have a parent. The node's owner. Yeah, I don't think you can do that. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. So we'll just queue free it, and I'm going to make this a constant. I can't remember in the style guide for Godot if const is supposed to be above or below signals, but whatever. So we're going to say purchase group string equals purchases. And we're going to dynamically add the group. So whenever you place the item all the way down into here, we're going to do prop dot group add to group purchases. Just persist. What is that option? The group will be stored. Oh, okay. That doesn't matter. This is not going to be persisted to a scene, so that should be fine. Okay, so now we have refund purchases as an option. So we just need a input. So we're going to go into input map, and we're going to add a refund button. And I'm going to bind that. I think to R. Yeah, I don't know. F kind of feels maybe a little bit better, but we'll see. I do kind of want it out of the way. And then in player input, we're going to do the same model. Var is refunding. I could make it a hold to refund option, but since it's just going to be an area that you walk into to activate it, I'm just going to keep it simple and just say you press it. And we're going to do the same thing here. Clear refund. And we'll make another function for that. Easy enough. Is refunding equals true. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and just name the new one the way I want. So clear refund. All right. We'll say clear is refunding. Okay. All right, there we go. So now we have the refund button. So for the moment, I'm just going to code this in here into process and say if player input dot is clear is refunding. I'm also going to rename these. Clear is placing item and clear is jumping. Said I wanted to fix those while I was at it. Still probably not the best name for that, but why is that not? Oh, right, because I haven't actually put anything in that yet. So we'll do store.refund purchases. Okay, let's see if this works. So we'll place a few items around. And remember, I didn't manually add the scene. It did not give me my money back. Okay, why did that happen? That's got to be something wrong with the store. So refund purchases since... Oh, duh. Okay, let's try that again. Yep, there we go. So now I can misplace the chairs all I want. And then I can jump up to these wherever I want to go. Those are shockingly hard to walk on whenever you get them that close together. Yeah, and then you can refund them. I guess I could make it part of the gameplay that you do have to refund them at some point and be smart enough to know that like, oh, I need to get on this branch and then I need to refund them. I say smart enough. I need to convey it to the player that what I intend them to do is to get on the branch and then refund the items and then use the refunded money to keep going. The only problem is if the amount of money you collect is part of the final score for the game, then I don't want you to be able to just instantly refund your items right before you grab the final item that ends the game. That's my biggest problem here. And I could say that, well, you know, the time it takes you to complete it is directly affected by how many items you pick up, which is true, and therefore I shouldn't make the money part of it. You know, that would be very much going the same way as a game about digging a hole, where to my knowledge, I don't believe that. Well, actually, I don't even know if that game has a score system now I think about it. But I don't believe that the amount of money you've actually collected really matters in the end. All it matters is that you buy what you need to buy to get down to the end. But yeah, okay. This is just so bizarre doing this. Okay. One thing I do think I'm going to do on the placeholder items is I think I'm going to override the material to make them semi-transparent. Let me actually go try that really quick and see how that looks. I could try to do that dynamically, but that I find tends to get a little funky. So this does have a material. So I could do a surface material override. And you can't modulate that. I could override it to a different color, I suppose. Let me do a new material, actually. Let me create a new material. We're going to say that this is a placement material. Or a placeholder material, I should say. I'm admittedly getting a little bit mixed in what I'm doing right now, but I think I kind of want it to be maybe like a purple so that it is against everything else. But I also think I want to do a texture, and I want to do a noise texture. We're going to keep this very low resolution, like 64 by 64. And the noise, we'll just do the fast light noise. Yep, whatever. Make that a little more transparent. I'm going to mess with the color ramp here as well. So we're going to do a gradient from this purple at the lightest, and at the darkest we're going to do like a white maybe, but it's going to be like transparent. And then I think this is just going to be white. Yeah, so that gives you like kind of a swirly pattern. And then if I set this to use UV world triplanar coordinates, I think there's actually a thing somewhere else, isn't there, for world coordinates? I thought there was. Whatever. Also going to drag that over a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to change this material override to the placeholder material. Whoa. Okay, that did not work the way I wanted it to. Let me mess with those triplanars. Yeah, okay, that's not doing exactly what I intended. Okay. Let's dial that back. And then maybe add another level in there. And we'll make this that. But I'm going to make it slightly transparent. Maybe actually even a darker shade of purple. Yeah. Okay, but then on the noise, I need to increase the scale a lot. Also, I'm going to increase this a lot too. And I also need to select the option to make it seamless. Determines where the noise is. Yeah, calculating in 3D space really doesn't make that much of a difference. Yeah, there we go, more like that. Yeah, this is the problem with using CSGs, is that there's technically boundaries between these. They're not really union together entirely correctly, but we're gonna see how that looks. I mean, it's definitely an interesting improvement. I don't necessarily like that it's yeah, I think the world triplanar was a mistake. That doesn't really look right. It makes it look really strange, actually. What I really need is like an animated noise texture. This is, I think, along the right lines, though, for what I need to do. Okay. Yeah, all right. So far, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now all I have to do is figure out how I want to restrict the ability to sell the items. My thought is that it needs to be some sort of activation area you stand in. So for that, I think I need 2 new components. One is going to be a sell area, and then the other is going to be a sell detector, maybe? Or a refund area and refund area detector. I'm going to actually put those in the store. So we're going to do a new script, area 3D, and we're going to do refund area. And let me see, where is my score? Oh, that was the other thing. I forgot I mentioned that I forgot to mention, I changed the way scoring worked. I went back to a credit collector and that kind of model. So before I had it as a generic hitbox and hurtbox, and I decided to go ahead and swap it back. Okay. So this is a refund area. I don't need a health component. I don't need credits, but I will keep the layer. And let me see what I want to name the layer. So we'll go into, what is it? Oh, no, it isn't here. Go down to 3D physics, and we're going to say refund area. That's layer 4. And let's double check what is layer 4. Layer 4 is 8. Okay. So we'll set that to refund area by default. Yep, and this is not going to be monitoring, but it is monitorable, and it doesn't have anything on it. It is literally just a dumb area. And then we'll do a new script, and we will have this one be the same thing but inverted, and this would be a refund area detector. Okay. And yep, we're going to invert that. All right. And then on ready, we're going to say area entered dot connect on area entered. All right. And I actually don't care about what the area is. We're just going to make the assumption that it is the correct type based on the collision layer, which isn't great, but again, running out of time here, so we're gonna move fast. Okay, so we'll say register refund area. And we'll say refund enabled equals true. And then we're going to also register the inverse. So area exited dot connect. All right. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to do this. Refund enabled true. Refund enabled false. And we'll just say can refund. And if true, we'll just return this value. Okay, so then on the player, we'll just add a child. We'll do refund area detector. And do a collision shape and probably just another sphere. Yeah, it doesn't really matter if it's a capsule or a sphere here. I'll make the radius like 1. Doesn't really matter that much, but... And we'll make that unique. And then in the level... I'll probably make a sign that just says a refund on it. Or sell chairs or something. Or reset. It's not really a reset though, because it doesn't reset the fruits, but whatever. All right, so we'll add a refund area. And we'll do collision shape, and I don't know, we'll do like a cylinder for this. Is this? Yeah, that's what I thought. And we'll make the radius like 2. No, that's way too big. Okay. And I'm gonna put the refund area over here just for testing. So directly in front of me. And then on the player, we will grab the refund area reference. And we will say in here, if refund area dot can refund and player dot is refunding. Yep. Okay. So if I come over here and I just place a bunch of chairs and I press R, nothing's happening. But if I walk over to here and I press R, okay, I'm like 90% certain I didn't press R right there, and I think it refunded anyways. Hold on. Let me very carefully walk over to here, not touch anything. Okay, I guess not. Okay. So now you can refund stuff. Now there's no UI feedback though, so I need to hook this into the HUD. Okay. Yep, okay, perfect. So the heads up display, I need something on the screen. Let's just start by adding a label. And we'll just say R refund chairs or sell chairs. All right, we'll say refund label. And I want that in the center of the screen. So I want that under that. I'm going to put it above the quick select. We're going to do center. It's kind of big text though. do? Shrink center. I don't want it to be exactly in the middle of the screen though. I want it to be a little bit further down. Actually, I'll tell you what I want to do. I'm going to do a margin container. We'll put that there. I'm going to put that in it. And we're going to have the margin container shrink to the end. And then we're going to put a add child node VBox container in here. See, I guess I probably could have just used the VBox, honestly. Yeah, I don't think I realistically needed the margin container for that. I just need to set it to shrink to the end. Not shrink center, shrink end. Okay. And then I need a reference to the refund detector. And I'm going to go ahead and make signals for this. For signal refund area updated. Refundability changed. We'll call it that. Okay, so then we'll do if refund detector does not equal null. Refund detector dot refundability changed. Connect on refundability changed. Update refund label. And we'll grab a reference to that. Equals refund detector dot can refund. Okay, let's see if that works. Oh, you know what? I know it's not because I didn't link it yet. Heads up display refund detector link. Okay, well, it wasn't supposed to be visible from the start. That should be hidden. Okay. Sell chairs. Yep. All right. So now it actually tells you when you can. All right. Yeah, that's looking good. Nice. Yeah, that's not hooked into the store. If the refund detector was hooked into the store, I could probably have it return false if there was nothing to refund. Which would be better user experience. It just makes it easier to understand what it's supposed to do. But I'm not too worried about it yet. I still think I need to tweak the jump height some. But okay. So now you can refund items. I would say if I go to the trouble of making the actual level at this point, even without the additional items or the additional chair types, I would probably have a game. As long as I implement the scoring mechanic. So that tells me that it is now time to do the bookends. Different chair types would be nice, but at the risk of running too late and not having them, I would rather have multiple, or I'd rather actually have a way to win the game. So that means I need the fruit that triggers the end game. So before I do anything else, let me mark that my time here. We are now switching to the bookends. Yep, so the reset mechanic is now in. I would say that's basically all main mechanics. Saving loading scores. That's what that needs to be. I don't have the scoring mechanic in. So let me actually add that as a thing. Scoring. Okay, so what is this? 21, 24. And we're working on bookends. All right. I will say most of this stuff at the end goes by pretty fast. A lot of this can be knocked out in like 2 hours. Even the audio, because I have a huge library of audio I'm able to use. I honestly tend to spend more time. It's not uncommon at all in the jams I've participated in to spend the vast majority of your time on player input and control. And I think that's the right way to do it, because if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't matter anything else you do. Do I have a thing here for... not really. I was gonna say, do I have a thing for other stuff? But all right. Okay, so bookends. First things first, well, actually, you know what? Let me check in my code real quick too, before I forget about it. And we'll do git commit. I'll just say finishes the store implementation. All right. Always check in your code. Always be pushing. You do not want to wind up forgetting to push your code and then breaking something and not having any checkpoints to go back to and not knowing what you broke or how you broke it. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and close the quick select for now. And we're going to close the chair prop. We're going to get some of this stuff out of the way. And the chair placeholder. All right, good. Got some windows free. So for game events, I can also close this. I've already got this figured out now. So we'll do game over. Okay. And I think all I need for that is a game over component that will emit it if a health component dies. All right, so yeah, I guess I'll make it under components. And, well, yeah, whatever. Okay, so we will make just a node game over component. Game over component, and we'll take a reference to the health component equals null, and func ready if health component does not equal null, then we'll do health dot killed dot connect on killed. Well, actually, maybe this is a good point. What did I do with the score? I think on the credit component, yeah, okay, the credit component kills it whenever it's picked up. Yeah, actually, no, this will be fine, because I do intend on putting a credit component on the golden apple. Okay. So then we will say on killed. And all we are going to do is do game events dot game over dot emit. And it's simple as that. So now I can attach this to any object with a health component and it can trigger a game over. Now, the interesting thing is going to be the timer. I'm not really sure yet how I want to handle that. One option I've thought of is that the game class is actually the part that holds the timer, and that it will periodically send out an event that contains what the current time is, and that way the HUD can retrieve it. Because I don't want there to be any discrepancy between the HUD and the actual calculated game time that's used for the score. In the past, I've had a score component or a score manager component, and it was an auto load, and you could just query it, and it was the thing that owned the time. But in this model, I'm not really going to do that. I'm going to have game probably create the high score screen or an instance of the score manager. But it's going to pass the time itself. So I'm not really sure what I want to do in terms of that. I'm thinking of maybe sending out a game start that has the offset, and the HUD just calculates the current time from the offset. I think that might be the easier option, and that way I don't have to constantly send signals. Yeah, okay. All that's to say, the Apple is not going to have anything to do with this, so I'm not going to worry about it. I keep saying Apple. I don't even know if it is going to be an Apple. What I'm planning to do, by the way, is I'm in Spectarier. I recreated the Chrome effect from the N64, and I'm going to put that on the Apple. Because if you're making anything N64 related, which is kind of what I'm going for, like a hybrid PS1 N64 look, you've got to do the Chrome effect somewhere, because it's one of those things where if developers could do it, they're going to show it off. So you've got to have it in there somewhere. I'm also probably going to make that thing way bigger than other items. Okay. So with that, let's see what I want to do here. Let's go ahead and make the game over item. So we are going to call this golden apple. And let me open up the fruit scene, or golden apple prop, I should say. I guess it's more of an entity than a prop. I kind of use mixed terminology for that. Usually, to me, a prop is something that's being placed in the level that doesn't have any... It's not an agent. It doesn't do anything. It's just there. It's maybe something you can destroy, maybe something you can move, maybe something that's static. It's just a thing that you carry out onto the stage. Whereas an actor or an entity or an agent, depending on what term you want to use, is something that's actively doing something. It might not be visible, but it's doing something. And it may... So, entity is usually the term I go with, but that's a little bit overloaded. Actor is usually a better term for that, I find. And then agent is specifically if something's like an AI that's moving around, like a zombie or whatever. I usually use the term agent on it. And that's just going back to some terminology I picked up from some old game AI programming books. But anymore, I think actor is what I want to go with. But I think I am going to just call this a prop then. Based on that, I've kind of talked myself into it. Unless I want to have the apple actively run away from you, which would be kind of funny, but this game's already random enough. I don't want to push it anymore. So let's see, where are my props? Okay, there's the fruit prop. So we have a health component, death component, credit component, and a mesh instance. Okay, so we need a health component. Yep. And we're going to add a death component and link that up. Link that up. Then a game over component. Link that up. And a credit component. Link that up. Man, I don't know how many this thing's going to give you. Maybe like 500. Wow, that feels a little light. See, the thing is, if it gives you too many, then the score isn't really going to be accurate. Although I guess you always have to pick it up, so I could just subtract that amount during the score calculation. I don't know. We'll do like 10,000. I want it to be so high that it actually makes narrative sense that you're picking it up, even though this is kind of a goofy game. But if it's, if it's only worth 5 times as much as a fruit you've picked up 600 of already, then that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Okay, so we'll do a sphere shape on that. And we'll make like the radius 1. Okay, so we've got health, death, credit, mesh instance. That's what we're missing. We'll do mesh instance. Let me actually check my assets here. Do I have... I'm sure I do. If I search for Apple, oh, it would help if I search the right place. Let me search for GLB OBJ. Okay, so there are some apples, and they are Kenny assets. Ooh, there's also pineapple. Let me just see what happens if I search fruit. No, that's not helpful. Food? That's a tomato. Well, that did not bring back as much as I thought it would. What folder are these in? Oh, they're in the food kit. That would make sense. Okay, so let's look at the previews and see what we've got here. Yeah, so we've got a couple. Oh, that's a bell pepper. Oh, that is a weird looking pumpkin. Yeah, we've got quite a few things to work with here. I could use the apple. I could do something really weird and put a giant why did I minimize that? I could do something really weird and put a giant pumpkin in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in as an OBJ because I'm just going to replace the textures anyway. Oh, that's right. This is inverted. Yeah, I do have to bring over the materials though. And we'll bring those over into meshes. I really wish when you import OBJs in Godot, I wish there was a way to tell Godot to just completely ignore the material file. If you don't bring the material in, Godot will freak out and throw an error about the material being missing. Even if you override the material in the import settings, it still freaks out about it. And I wish there was an option to just say, no, I literally only want the mesh. I don't care if the mesh references a material. Ignore it. Because there's this really annoying thing where the meshes reference a relative path to textures. So whenever I use these Kenny assets, I have to export this textures folder into my materials folder, even though I'm not actually going to use them. So let me double check that. I'll check and see if I can bring this in. What the? Can I not edit the import settings? Oh, weird. Is this open over here now? Huh. That's new. How do you... Why is it read only? Change the settings on the import panel on the right. That's weird. Normally you can click these to re-import them. Huh. Force disable what? Mesh compress. Oh. OBJ is mesh. I wonder. Okay, OBJ is mesh. Whatever. All right, I'm not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna export the textures. We're just gonna override it anyways, but whatever. Okay. So, what scene? Oh, right. So we will go over to my scenes, props. We'll do golden apple. Golden apple prop. All right. And on mesh instance, we will load the apple. And okay, there we go. I want to scale that up a lot. So we are going to do at least 2 times larger. Let me pop over into the level and see just how big this thing is. Where's the golden apple? There it is. Oh yeah, that thing needs to be a lot bigger. This thing needs to be huge. It's the end game. Wait, did scale reset? What? Oh, I'm in the fruit prop. Let's do at least 3 maybe. How's that look? I mean, it's bigger. Okay, we'll start with that and see. No, this thing needs to be bigger than that. There we go. Okay. I am gonna have to copy my gold material from my previous project though, from Spectarier. So let me see if I can even find the thing. So resources, materials. Actually, I think it was a shader now I think about it. And what did I call it? Like chrome? Gold? Yeah, gold material.trez. Ah, yeah, reflection shader. And then reflection.png. Okay, so the reflection.png. I'm going to quickly download that. And then the reflection shader. Looks like that is just a spatial shader. Okay, so then back over here in Godot. I'm going to drag over my... Oh, actually, first let me make the shader. So we'll come over here and do a new resource shader and reflection shader. And yep, default spatial. Well, we're going to do empty. Okay, so there we go. There's that. And then this image, the way they did reflection on Super Mario 64 is the image that there's actually an image that is of a flower, and it's got a little bit of sky, a little bit of ground, and some color from a flower, and it's super tiny, and I believe it's flipped upside down. Like it's literally like a 16 by 16 or 32 by 32. It's super tiny image, and that image just gets applied using, I think, screen coordinates to the model. And that's it. And then they basically just tint it gold or chrome, and that's how they do reflections. So it's basically like a pre-computed cube map, but a lot simpler. So that's what the shader is replicating. Very, very, very simple. And I've got my own picture of the National Cemetery up in Washington, D.C. I've got a picture of a statue there, and I've done the same thing where I've shrunken it down. So I've got a little bit of the sky and then a little bit of the ground. And I don't think I have the splash of color in the middle, but from what I found, it really didn't make much of a difference. So then all I need to do is go to my downloads and just grab that reflection shader, and we'll bring that over. I'll go put reflection in the textures folder where it belongs. Okay. And all right. So then on the golden apple, I am just going to make a new material. We're going to do a new material resource. Yep, shader material. And we're going to just call this gold material. And on gold material, we're going to select the reflection shader. And on the environment map, we're going to pick my PNG. How big is that PNG actually? Oh, it's 32 by 32. Okay, and I think all of those settings are fine. I think I had the defaults well picked already. Yeah, there we go. And there's the gold. I might make that a little bit of a deeper color though. Just looking at that, it's a little bit dark. Yeah, see there you can see the reflection amount. It almost looks like chrome when you do that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and I might tweak this a little bit. There we go. Okay, so if we pop over into the level, we've got our giant chrome or giant gold fruit. Yeah, that looks plenty good. And now I've got $10,000. Now I don't have anything hooked up to the game over event yet, but we do have the fruit. Okay. One thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and move this up here. And I'm probably going to add some like sparkle effects around it and some kind of like circle pulsing outline. Not like an outline shader, but like a like a halo effect almost. You see that a lot in older games, especially PS2 era stuff. Oh, so close. I will say I kind of think the reflection should maybe be the other way around. It doesn't make as much sense that it's reflecting dark on the top when it's going to be sitting on top of the tree. I will say though, this is already kind of working. Oh no. Let me see if I can even get it. Is this already? Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, I got it. There we go. Yeah. So already that's starting to work. So all I need to do is add in the logic to actually end the game and tabulate the score, get the timer hooked up, and then functionally we have a game. Not a very complex one, but it's there. Okay, yeah. I'm liking this. Yeah, this is going good. Okay. So let me quickly go into game, and we're going to attach a script to that. And yeah, we're not going to give it a class name. We're just going to put in the ready game events dot game over dot connect on game over, and we'll just make a function for that. End game. What is happening? There we go. Okay. Copy paste, you failed me. All right, there we go. So for the moment, all I'm gonna do is just have it immediately end. So we will just do get tree dot reload current scene. We'll keep it simple for now, but I need a score screen, and I also need a timer. So let me add something here. So var start time int equals 0, and we'll do start time equals time dot get, and what is it, ticks, millisecond, microsecond. Really don't think I'm going to need anything more precise than this. Is millisecond, right? Not microsecond. Yeah. Start time and millis. There we go. And actually start timestamp millis. Okay, so then we got that. Now let's go ahead and hook up the HUD. So we're going to add a game event for signal game started, and we'll do start timestamp millis, and this way it can get, the HUD can be made aware of it. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and make a start game method. Game events dot game started dot emit, and we'll go ahead and move that down there, and we'll put this here. There we go. Okay. So in endgame, it's actually going to be calculating, or it's going to make the call. Oh, actually what I need, let me grab end time as well now I think about it. End timestamp millis int equals that, and then we'll go ahead and grab var elapsed time millis int equals end time minus start time. Okay, now it's currently being unused, but that'll get passed to the scoring system. And I believe there is a game event for credits changed as well. So we're going to listen to that. So var credits int equals 0. So we're going to listen to game events dot credits change dot connect on credits changed. And I think some of this I'm probably going to move to a different component, because game, I think I might want to just have it be responsible for managing state, and I might not want to make it responsible for tabulating score. I might have like a score tabulator or something like that, but for now we'll just put it in here, and we'll do that. I believe this is just called total. Doesn't really matter. Credits equals total. Okay, there we go. So now I've got my, I should always have the credits and I always have the score. So now I can do whatever I want with that. Okay, so now over in heads up display, we are going to subscribe to that. So we are going to do game events dot game started dot connect on game started. And we're going to come down here and do update game time. Oh, and also I need start timestamp millis. Okay, so update game time. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing in here. Okay. So now I'm using 3 decimal points at the end of this in the HUD, which I believe is centiseconds, not milliseconds. So I have hours there, which I probably shouldn't. Let me change that actually. So time label. If it takes somebody hours, I have really screwed up. Okay, so we have actually no, that would be milliseconds. So actually I do want to do this. So I need minutes, seconds, and then what is that, like centiseconds or something? Well, we'll figure it out. Okay, so first things first, we need to get the current time, and we're going to do that the same way that game does it. So we're going to grab elapsed time. Well, actually, a little bit different. So in this, it's going to use process. We kind of have to, but I don't need the delta. So we're going to store a variable for int equals 0. And we'll save that. And we'll say update game start time. Okay. So we have that. So then I also need this. And we'll say current timestamp millis. Elapsed time millis. Okay, so now I also need a reference to the time label. I don't think I have one. All right. So time label equals, all right, %d colon %d colon %d, and we'll do minutes, seconds. Let me just Google real quick. I think it is third. I think it's, yeah, so 100. Okay, yeah, it is hundredths of a second. I thought so. All right. So they're centiseconds. All right. So, all right. Do var minutes int equals 0, var seconds equals 0, var centiseconds equals 0. And these are, they need a leading 0. So I believe it's 2%. Is it %2d? %20d or something? Parse error. Expected node path is string or identifier after $sign. Oh, oops. I think it's like, isn't it %2.0 or something? Oh, yeah, that would also help if this was the right. I can never remember the format of these, but I think it's something like that. Okay, so that's also, I should really make a func update game timer. I should really move this into that. I really should not be just putting that directly into the process function. Okay. All right. Well, let's see what happens if I actually run it. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was worried about. think, is it 02? Is that the... And format strings. Yes, it's 02. That's what it is. I thought it was. I knew it was something weird. I couldn't remember. Okay. So we've got that. All right. So now this would be millis times 1000 would be... let's see. So we do millis times 1000, or no, divided by 1000. That would be a huge mistake. Gets you seconds. And then you divide that by 60, and that should get you minutes. What are you mad about? Are you mad because this is integer division? Warning, ignore integer division. Yeah, sure enough. There's a way to cast that this doesn't... Is it... If you do this... I think, is that what it is that makes that happen? There's like a specific way you can make Godot not be mad about this. Let me see. If I do that, okay, whatever. We're just gonna do it with the warning. Normally this is something I'd look up, but whenever I'm streaming, I don't like to just randomly pop open a browser just to check that. Because I kind of go quiet for a minute. I'm trying to avoid dead air as best I can. Okay, so now that gives you minutes. There's a smarter way of doing this, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But, okay, so that... I think if you divide millis... What is it? Is it by 10 or by 100? So millis is 1000. Yeah, you divide it by 10, I think, to get centiseconds. But these are not the full one, they're the remainders. Okay, so that gives you seconds. So then I need... that minus minutes times 60. So that gives you seconds, but minus however many are reserved. Okay. All right, let me run this and just see if that looks right. Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Okay, yeah, that's counting correctly. All right, so we're going to sit here for a minute. Literally 1 minute and make sure that that does what it's supposed to do. I think it will. I know I've done this in a shorter way before, but I don't recall off the top of my head what the quicker way or the more efficient way of calculating that is. I have to remind myself not to touch the apple. Okay. Hopefully the apple stands out well. I think I am going to try experimenting with flipping the reflection upside down. Because I think if I do that, it might look... For one, I think it'll make more sense and look better. But two, it'll be darker on the bottom, which I think will make it easier to see against the sky. Because it does blend in a little bit. Oh, I did see it. Oh man, I wasn't watching when it flipped. All right. So now the centiseconds would be the... Let's see. So you divide that by 10. because there's 10 milliseconds in a centisecond. Right. This may have been easier if I had calculated it differently. Okay, so that's... Yeah, okay, let me try something. So var total centiseconds int equals that divided by 10. And we disable integer division. Okay, so then total centiseconds divided by 100. Okay, so then this would be total centiseconds minus seconds times 100 minus minutes times what, 6,000? 60 times 100? That seems right. Because we're not dealing with seconds here, we're dealing with centiseconds. So that would need to get multiplied. All right. Yeah, okay, that does look right. But I definitely need to use the monospace version of that font. Because right now it looks like it's shaking from anxiety. Do Mississippi. Yeah, it seems right. Okay. Let me grab the monospaced version of that font. And I think that's Nico Paint. So let me grab Nico Paint monospaced. And we'll just dump that into the fonts directory. I don't even remember if I'm using the some of those other fonts still. Okay, so now we'll go into the theme and we're going to add a timer label, and we will make that a label. And on the font, we will change that to Nico Paint monospaced. All right, and then in here, we will just update it to the type variation as there we go, timer labeled. Yep, there we go. And I'm actually going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a credits label. And again, like I said, you can make like HUD header large or something like that as a more generic thing. But for small jam games, I like to be specific. If I did that, I could technically reuse the same thing in both places, but I do tend to explicitly set them. Just because in jams, I don't like to try and pre-optimize. I find that it's... I've done that in the past where I've preemptively said, oh, all these things are going to be the same. And then it turns out they are not going to be the same, and I made a horrible mistake. And if I want them to be the same later, then at the end, I can just hackily change everything to use the same label. But mid-development, I like to keep things the same. Yeah, there we go. It's not jittering anymore. All right, perfect. I think I do want some outlines on those, though. Hey, I grabbed the fruit. Yeah, one thing I do want is whenever the game over happens, I'm actually probably going to have it start a timer and scene transition. It's not just going to reset immediately or switch to the score screen immediately. I want there to be enough time that you actually see that the score has changed, because otherwise I'm worried that it's going to be very jarring. And for easier state management, I'm thinking the entire game is effectively going to take place within one scene, including the menus. That way I don't have to be worried about as much about how the scene transition system is going to work, because that can get really tricky, especially when you deal with resources that get loaded and unloaded. I made that mistake with Cookie Clamber. I learned that if you try to load and unload the resources, weird junk happens. Yeah, okay, the timer is working. Cool, so now we've got a timer. All right. Let me try adding... Well, okay. So I've got the timer. Now I need the score calculator. The way I did that with maximum voltage is that the score calculator was a ref counted object that was just instantiated by the score menu, and it took reference to all the variables it needed and calculated it internally. I don't think I'm going to go that hardcore with it. I think I'm probably just going to make a high score screen as a canvas object, and it'll just get instantiated by game, and then game will set the variables on it for what is it called, for time elapsed and credits. And I think game is also going to pause whenever this happens. I'm going to have it pause the scene, and then I'll just make that menu something that can't be paused. Now, a pet peeve of mine that I do want to avoid is I don't like reloading the scene, because that will reload your preloader and your loading screens and all that. And I don't generally like to do that. I don't like to make players sit through that again. Everyone's played a game that's done that, and it's annoying. So where possible, I like to have it just bounce you back to the main menu. So I'm going to look into potentially doing that as well. But first things first, getting the score implemented. Then we're going to get the state management to bounce you around the menus. I do also have the settings system is implemented, but I do not have a way to actually change any of the settings. So I should probably implement the settings menu sooner rather than later, because it doesn't do me a lot of good to have settings menus for accessibility if you can't actually access them. And yeah, I think from there, then it'll just be a matter of building the tree, which is going to be interesting. I'm not really certain what it's going to look like right now. I might look through some of the pre-made assets that I have permission to. I was kind of planning on building it myself, but that might be a little too difficult. We'll see. I might pop open Blender. I think though, for the moment, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get back to this, get the score set up, and figure out where I'm going from there. All right, we are back. So the question is going to be, how is the score screen even going to look? We're going to start with that. I'm going to do it as a canvas layer. We'll do a margin container. We'll set that to full rect. And let's start doing some labels. So we want credits. I'm going to add another one. So that's credits credits label. Then this one's going to be the actual credits value. And we're probably going to do this as an H box, I think. I could use a grid for this, but I don't think that's really necessary here. Okay. And then, oh wait, there's the debugger showing me. Remove a collision object during local variable. Okay, well that I know about. Ow. During a physics callback. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right. So we have that. Let me also add a panel container. Okay. And we're going to do a VBox container around it. And we'll do another label in here. And we'll call this title label. We'll just do score for now. This panel container, I think I'm actually going to set it to shrink center. And I'll probably fill. And then on the margin container, we're going to set the margins to be like 64, 64, 64, 60. Oh, wait, that's way too much. Top and bottom, we'll do less. Because I have to remember that's going to be really zoomed in. Okay. And title label, we'll just center that for now. Okay, so we have the score, or I guess I actually need one more. You know what? Actually, I've convinced myself this should be a grid, grid container with 3 columns. And we'll do those 2 to start with. And then I need credit score. Okay. And then I need the same things again, but this will be for time. Time label, time value. And then time score. Okay. Zero. Okay. All right. And then this I want to be right aligned. Same thing with this one. We'll do right aligned on both. And then both the scores need to be right aligned. I don't love how that looks. Gotta be honest. If this were maximum voltage where I had more things to score against, that would look a little more reasonable, but that looks kind of goofy right now. Even if I add the oh, actually I need H box. Well, yeah, H box. Well, no, I can get away with this. So if I duplicate these again and I have this as final label, we'll just say score, and then I have that be blank. We just do placeholder label. And then we do score. Yeah, it's not great. I think I want these to be staggered. So it's credits, and then that under it, time, and then that under it, and then score and that under it. And if I do that, I can't really use a grid container if I go that route. And then I want, is the final thing, there should be a high score label down there. So we'll do high score, and then I probably want a new one for new high score label. And probably want that above it. Well, I might actually just change this based on what it is. So I could either have it say high score, I could make this the score label. So I could actually move that down here and do a, so I could have this either say new high score and then have this be down there. Or I could say, just have it say score. And then I can change this to results. Actually, you saved the farm. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I'm definitely thinking that I want credits and time to be staggered. But yeah, so I like this approach actually. So I'm going to do another VBox so I can space them differently. So score label and score value. Well, let's say score. Okay, and then that should be fine. And then I'll probably put different spacing on that. And I'll probably just say results up here. Keep it simple. Okay, so then I want an HBox, or I guess this is actually a VBox container is what I need. So we'll move these three things into that. And then I want an HBox inside it. And I need that to expand. Yeah. Okay, so this needs to change type to a VBox container and add a child node, an HBox container. And again, same thing. We'll set this to expand. Yeah, that's better. And then I can set a custom minimum width on this. I don't know, 128, 156. That seems okay. I do want these to be indented though. So I might actually want to put a margin container there. And if I set that as like 4 or 8, yeah, I think that does what I want. I really should be doing this with the theme, but until I know what I even want it to look like, there's not really much point in spending a ton of time building out a theme to do this. And then the panel container itself is going to have a margin around it, so I'm not too worried about that. And I think this V-box, let's see, which one is that? Yeah. Okay, so this V-box. Oh, actually, hold on a minute. Oh. There we go. Okay. So let's call this credits container. That is the time container. And that is the score container. There we go. I'm gonna up the separation on this one to like 8. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. Now the question is, do I want to keep these all caps? Credits. I mean, I could also center these. I think I want the results label to actually be bigger. That might solve that. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Which I guess now I don't really need the margin containers. See, this is why you don't waste time doing that. I do think though that I am going to reduce the size of this to maybe 132. Well, I know actually the credits one, I know that's going to be at least 5 digits, which means the score is probably also going to be 5 digits. Now, I think I'm going to have these in different colors just to distinguish them. Okay, so let me maybe bring that back out to 148. And 156 maybe. There we go. Okay. Not perfect, but it works. And then this also does need a button. But I think I'm gonna put the button under the panel container maybe. So we're gonna do a V-box container. And that's going to go in the V-box container as well. Okay, so we'll say retry button. And we'll do another button. And we'll say quit button. And we will do a HBox container for that. And we will center that. Oh, it is centered. Oh, the buttons aren't, that's why. And we'll set that to fill. Actually, that kind of works. Wait, why is this? Wait a minute. Wait, what? Why is that expanding as much as it is? Oh, I see. Okay. It's expanding as large as it can. Okay, so instead of expand, I think I just want to do a minimum size then. And I probably want this to be shrink center. There we go. Yeah. Actually, this is almost the entire screen as is. I'm gonna have to figure something out about that. Because there's not going to be any room. I mean, it's not too late to increase the resolution if I need to, but that is awfully big. Okay. So we'll say score screen, or score overlay, actually. And we will save that into the scenes UI score overlay. Okay. And that is going to need a script. Score overlay. And we're going to export. I guess it really doesn't need to be an export, but so we need elapsed time millis int equals 0, and then we need credits. Okay. So now I need to figure out how the scoring is going to work. My go-to reaction is that the elapsed time probably needs to have some baseline par time. And I'm not going to do a penalty. I think what I'm going to do is that every second you're under the... Well, I've got it counting centiseconds. Every centisecond you're under par is going to probably count as a point. So I need a par time. So const var par time millis. Well, yeah, I guess I'm calculating with millis instead of centis, whatever. Int equals, I don't know, 10,000. Actually, let me do something different. We're gonna say 5 minutes times 60 seconds times 1,000. And we'll just put 5 minutes out here. Oh, right, you don't need var for const. Okay. All right, so then I need a function for calculating that. So calculate time score. And we're going to take the elapsed time in. Oh, I guess we don't really need to because it's coming in as an export. Int. Okay. So that is going to be the min, or the max, between 0 and the par time millis minus the elapsed time millis. So if the par time is 60,000 and you complete it in 30,000, then you get 30,000. But if the elapsed time is 90, that would be negative 90. Yep, okay, so that's what I want. All right, so that is, we'll call this saved time millis. Int equals that, or millis under time would probably be better. Under par. Okay. And then we're just going to say const r time multiplier int equals 1. So we're just going to return millis under par times the par time multiplier. So that's relatively straightforward. And then the other one is going to be the credit score. So calculate credits score. See, what we need to do is go to 3 different bureaus and make up bullshit reasons. No, okay. So how do I want to do this? This is going to really depend a lot on the economy. So I think I'm going to just have a const credits multiplier. And for now, I think I'm going to just leave it at 1. Okay. And we'll add score to that as well. So yeah, I think this is literally just going to return credits times credit score multiplier. Not exactly the most unique approach, but until I get a better understanding of how many fruits are going to be in the level and what the par time is and what it's worth, I'm not going to really know for sure. So we'll just wing it for now. Okay. So now I actually need to update those. So we are going to do... And I wanted to do animations to actually animate the high score screens by like incrementally revealing the score or counting it up, but I never have time. I always run out, and I think that's going to be the same case this time. So we're just going to do an update score, and we're just going to call it. So we're going to grab all of these. So credits value, credit score. So I need to move these. Time value, time score, score label, and score. And then I also need the buttons. Those are probably going to be signals that game listens to. Okay, so what we're going to do here is do set value elapsed time millis equals value, and then update score. Actually, I'm going to change how I do that on this one. I'm going to use a method or a function. Func calculate score. And we're going to do it that way. The reason I'm changing it is because I do want this hooked into the high score system, and I don't want it to be constantly trying to save your score every time these change. It's a minor thing, but I would rather not do that if I can avoid it. Okay, so we'll just do that. And then I'm just going to have these take parameters. Okay, so then what we're going to do here is we're going to say credits value is dot text is equal to credits. And again, we're going to do the $% %D. credit score dot text is equal to str calculate credit score. Well, actually, I have to save that, otherwise I won't be able to calculate the full total. And we'll actually do that up here. Time score int equals calculate time score var final score int equals credit score plus time score. There we go. Okay. So then we can do time value dot text equals, I'm going to come back to that because I need a generic time format function. It occurs to me that I should have written it that way. Okay, so then we have that. Score label for now, I'm just going to leave the text equal to final score. And I'll have to add some system for detecting if that's a high score. And then score.text equals str final score. Okay, so for the time value, let's go and make a quick script for that. I'll close a bunch of this junk. And we're just going to make a new folder for utils. And a new script. And we're going to have it be ref counted. And we'll just call it time utils. Okay, and we'll do abstract class name time utils. And we're going to do static func format time. And then millis int. And then we're going to go into the HUD, wherever I put it. There it is, heads up display. And we're going to grab that. And we're going to just move that and do, well, we'll come back to that. But on time utils, we're just going to do that. And we're just going to return. Okay, there we go. So there's my format time function. And then in the heads up display, we are going to do time label dot text equals format time utils dot format time elapsed time millis. I forget my class name. Oh no, I didn't save it yet. That's why. What do you mean? Oh, okay. All right, so that should be good. And then in my score overlay, I can do the same thing. I can do time utils dot format time, and we can do elapsed time. Perfect. All right. Okay. So now I need to go and, well, actually a couple other things. I need a couple signals. So retry pressed and menu pressed. So I need to add some detection for those. On retry pressed, and we'll do quit. Okay. And all we'll do there is just do retry press dot emit. And we'll do the same thing here for quit. All right, perfect. So that should be done now, except for the calculation of the high score and the saving of the high score. All right, so we're going to go back to game. Oh, one other thing on the score overlay. I'm going to go in here and set when paused to be the mode. And on game, I'm going to set mode to always. And then on level, I'm going to set it to pausable. Okay, so here on game, I need a packed scene for, where is it? The score overlay. All right. So what I'm going to do here is just immediately pop it up for the moment. So we're going to do instantiate that. So we'll do var score overlay. Score overlay equals that. And then we'll do score overlay dot calculate score, elapsed time, and credits. And then, well, actually what I can probably do is just leave it there all the time, come to think of it. I don't need to instantiate it like this. So I can just instantiate a child scene for score overlay. And we'll just leave it. That makes this a lot easier, so I don't have to do that. And I can do score overlay dot show. Okay, and then in ready, I want to do score overlay dot menu press dot connect on menu pressed. And then we'll do the same thing with on retry rest. Okay. And I'm going to put that under start game, actually. All right. So now whenever you end the game, it should show the final score. Wow. Okay, so the time... All right, well, there's a couple things already. I'm not actually pausing the scene. That's problematic. So I need to do... paused equals true. And that way it actually stops running. So yeah, the par time is like 5 minutes, so... There we go. It's not releasing the mouse though, so I need to work on that. And also the HUD canvas layer is on top of that canvas layer. So I got 40 credits left, so that got me 40. Yeah, it's not really a lot. And that's also interesting because that is not the same. That says 1990 and that says 1989. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, it kind of works. Except now the... Ah, dang it. I had to Alt F for it. It didn't release the mouse. In the player code, I have logic for grabbing and releasing the mouse. So capture mouse. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to do that. I guess I could just lock the player and hide the HUD. It might be the better option. Alright, well, either way, I need to make it visible, so we're going to go into game, and we're also going to make the mouse visible. I might implement a scene transition here, just for simplicity, or not simplicity's sake, but just to maybe avoid some of the bugginess that might happen if the scene is still technically running. Okay, there we go. Yeah, now you can click those. All right, next thing is the score overlay needs a higher priority. So we're going to put that on layer 4, I think. And we'll test this again. I keep forgetting to grab that. I really need to implement the feedback in the UI for that, because even I keep making that mistake that I don't actually have any money. Yeah, that's better. Okay. I think I do still want to hide the HUD though. So I'm going to have the heads up display listen for that event. Game events dot game over dot connect on game over. And we'll just do func on game over. We're going to just have it hide itself. And on game, there are... Oh, that actually doesn't do anything on game over. Okay. I thought that had parameters. Yeah, so we'll just hide the HUD so I don't have to worry about it. I mean, I'm already changed the priority, so it's not that big of a deal, but... Yeah, there we go. I think what I might do is have something come up from the bottom of the screen to cover the background and have this maybe fade in or something, or scroll down from the top. Okay, so technically at this point, there is a gameplay loop. You can't actually return to the main menu yet, but it's technically half implemented. So as a quick thing, on game, I'm gonna make both of these just quickly reload the current scene. That way, if I don't come back tomorrow to have time to update that, it will technically have a way to reload the game. Now the settings menu is probably the next thing I need to add, because without that, it's not going to be Yeah, there we go. Oh, the mouse is still locked. Okay. Or the game is still paused, I should say. Let me add a thing for that. So func pause game. So we will do that. And we'll put that there. So we'll pause immediately. Okay, and then we will add a resume game. And that will just set this to false. And that will just get called down there. I always forget that the scene tree stays paused whenever you reload the scene, because the scene tree isn't going away. You're just reloading what's in the scene tree. All right. Yep. Okay, there we go. Now it's working again. Well, I have to admit, I am definitely going to be cutting this a lot closer than I like for a jam. Was not feeling it this time. Getting too old to be staying up late. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'd say I need the settings menu and to build the tree. But I also have to figure out what other chairs I'm going to add. But I'm seriously running out of time. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to add the other chairs or not. But I can't really build the tree until I know what all gameplay elements are going to exist. So my go-to reaction right now is to maybe add the physics chair, because the rigid body chair is probably the easiest one to implement. And then potentially from there add the bounce chair, and that would be probably the easiest things to do. The bounce chair I don't think is going to be very difficult, because I just have to add like a bounce component to the player that works the same as the jump component, but instead of being triggered by player input, it's triggered by entering a bounce area. And honestly, I was gonna say, I don't think you can bounce a character body automatically. I don't think they respond to the bounce flag on a physics property. I think they have to explicitly be moved, which isn't a big deal, because basically I can just add a bounce velocity and add it to the jump velocity calculation. And then the nice thing is that the state machine for jumping will automatically detect if you are if you're in the air. So the in-air movement should kick in automatically if you get bounced upward. I don't have to like manually calculate that again. So I think that's kind of where we're at. It's getting a bit late and I don't want to disturb people talking on stream. So here's the plan. I'm going to look at adding the settings menu, because that's kind of boring. There's really not a lot to that. And also the main menu. I don't know if I'm going to do the transitions yet though, but I'm going to at least add the menus so that the game is technically complete or completable. Then I'm probably going to see if I can add in the other chair, the rigid body chair versus the hover chair. The hover chair is basically what we have now. So then I'll see about adding in the physics chair, the rigid body one, and maybe the bounce chair. And probably going to call it a night. I am getting too tired, I think, to stay up. But the plan is tomorrow to wake up early and to drill through this and do all of the level design. I say that in my head and that sounds like such a bad idea, doing all the level design tomorrow. But I think I'm going to do all the level design tomorrow. And Also all of the juice for the game, so adding in the animations and the sounds and things. And we're gonna hope that it comes together. I did not spend as much time on this jam as I usually like to. I usually try to hit about 80 to 90% of the total time between start and end, and I think I'm hovering like at 50% right now. But I'm gonna do the rest as much as I can off camera, as it's gonna be fairly repetitive and boring from this point on anyways, and I need to get heads down. So anyone who's crazy enough and listening to me, thanks, and I will hopefully catch you tomorrow unless I sleep through it. See you then.